Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, JC Soto. And today I have Alice Brink. She's the founder of Energy InterPLAY, and she's also a self-empowerment coach and energy trainer. And today we're going to talk about the flow in life and the flow in business, the flow that applies to everything we do. Welcome to the show, Alice.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking, I know you're busy, so let's get to it. What is Energy InterPLAY and how do you help your clients?
Well, you know, the idea of Energy InterPLAY, I'm a longtime Reiki practitioner and I've been a coach for many years. But I really I had this big awakening that it's not so much about knowing how to do energy, how to plug into energy, how to sense energy, that kind of thing. It's how is it working in our lives? How is it moving? And how are we influencing that? So I've always been big on like less woo-woo and more practical. I'm going to say less woo-woo and how do you do? How do you do it? And how does it work every moment that you're walking around on the planet? So the whole idea behind Energy InterPLAY is that I use the infinity symbol as kind of a good focal point to imagine that infinity symbol is dynamic and it's moving. And that is, you know, a figure 8 laying on its side. Yes. So we could be in the center of that figure 8, and we could be intentionally moving energy along that pattern, or we could be at the end point of one of the loops of that 8, and we could be intentionally kind of instigating the energy that we want to put out there, and then receiving energy back. And it's in a beautiful flow. So it just helps everything. Inner peace, relationships, opportunities, healing, just day-to-day life's frustrations become more dynamic, and we become a participant in that instead of the victim or the observer of that.
The victim, yes.
You know.
And how does that apply to business? For a business owner?
Yeah. So I love, so this is part of everything I do. So part of this is, you know, business is a spiritual practice. Think about how much energy, effort, love, intention, desire we put into our business life. That's a big choice about where we are focusing our energy. And that's a sacred endeavor. So in business, if we see it that way, number one, that kind of changes our whole perspective. So if we see it as this interplay of energies that we have a lot of influence over, then we can open ourselves up to better outcomes. We don't have to be so grasping. We don't have to be greedy. We don't have to be worried. We don't have to be in the consciousness of lack, because the flow is always going to continue. It's always going to be an outpouring and inpouring, an outpouring and inpouring. So when we get that, first of all, we can relax a little bit. We can, when we're relaxed, our brain works better, our circulation is better, our good chemistry in our body is higher, our immune system functions better. So all those things happen when we get in that relaxed, more trusting of life kind of flow. So a couple of practical ways to use this in business would be to prepare for maybe a difficult conversation. You know, maybe you need to give some guidance to an employee, or maybe you need to tell your boss you're not happy with something, or that you feel like you deserve a raise, or, you know, any number of things. So if we, one of the sections in my 4-week course that's coming up is about energy literacy. And one of the sections is, do you want to be right or do you want to be connected?
Yeah. And that's really important too for small business owners, because you have to always be kind of talking and interacting with prospects and clients and customers, and that's a never ending part of the business
Yes.
line. Yeah.
Yes.
So what kind of, when they come to you, do they have any myth that you have to dispel before they can start working and start discussing how to get into the flow?
Well, there are a lot of myths, and one of them is about separation. And one of those myths is that we're all separate, and we're not. Energetically, I'm certified in heart math, and we can talk about that a little bit more later. But heart math, it's proven that the energetic field of the heart is when I learned it 10 years ago, was measurable about 25 feet out. Now they can measure it to 125. My suspicion is it's infinite. So we are living, we carry our own field. We're interacting and interplaying with all these other fields. And so when we are conscious about that, then we can say, how do I want to be right now? When I'm in charge, when I'm driving my own energy bus, how do I want to show up? And let me just acknowledge that, JC's come in the room. He's got his own energy field. What if I just level up my awareness and go, oh, this is what's really going on here. And how do I influence that? So there's a lot around that too. There's a lot about, we already mentioned victim, not being a victim of other people's stuff. So one of the things I really stress in all my work is we're 100% responsible for our own happiness, and no one else is, and no one else's, apostrophe S. We're not responsible. I'm not responsible today about whether, JC has a great day or not. That was a big obstacle for me to overcome because I'm a pleaser by nature. I'm the middle child. I'm the peacemaker, and that's where I got to self-empowerment. It's about being self-empowered, and not in a selfish way, not in an egoistic way, but realizing, okay, the buck really does stop here, but I have some say over the buck. I can have some influence on how that's moving and what results, what are the results? So, you asked me about business earlier. I wanted to share a story about a client that I have.
Before that, I want to ask you something before you go to the client, because I want to hear about clients that you have before that have applied the flow principle that you teach. But I want to hear about when they come to you, do they have some mistaking or some beliefs that are not helpful? That they're maybe even negative beliefs towards getting to the flow, because you're talking about woo-woo stuff, and that's a lot of people think that flow stuff and energy stuff is just stuff that it doesn't make
hippie.
Yes.
Tie-dyed and hippied.
Yes.
Yeah. I always say, all that's really cool. I like that stuff. But it's not. it's really what we're doing all the time. So when I have live workshops and people are in the room, I'll go over and I'll say, okay, first of all, show of hands, who does energy? Few people. And then I go and I really get in somebody's face and get in their bubble. And I go, did you feel that? I'm in your bubble. So there is an energy field. There's no way that we're not, if the energy body wasn't here, we will have left the building. When our energy body leaves our physical body, we're done. So we're all doing energy all the time. So I try to make it really fun and accessible and, show good examples. And then I get past it with really practical exercises where almost anybody can feel the energy or sense the energy. So that's another misconception, is that, energy, you have to be fast and meditate and all these things. No, it is very accessible. You carry it with you all the time. So we do really fun exercises where people can start to feel the energy. Sometimes they even see the energy. Just depends on how you're wired. I had a client who didn't do any of it. And she's like, I think I'm an energy loser. I've taken all these classes. I can't feel the energy. But she was actually a physician. And she goes, but, I just stand over the person and I just know it's gallbladder. And I was like, oh, okay, that works. Yeah, you're plugged in. You're getting information that's non-physical, right?
Yes.
You didn't sense it with your five senses, and you got verifiable information. So people need proof. We need proof. We need little bits of proof. I've had so much proof in my life that I have no question. So it's, it's just bringing people as far as they want to go in that moment. Yeah. And so we can, yeah.
And sometimes they're afraid, right? They have some fears when they come to you. What are they afraid of?
They're afraid it's going to conflict with their religious beliefs. I get into that. And then we have a conversation, it's about language. I mean, Jesus said, you will do these things that I do and more. And we, in the East, we'd call it prana. I apologize, I keep turning my phone off. Okay. Okay. We have different names for it or no name for it, but we're still in it. And so when we can have a conversation and people will feel the energy because, I'll give the example of, have you ever walked in a room and you just don't feel right?
Oh, yeah.
Or somebody else? Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody else.
I'm a Silva instructor, so I know I work with all this energy and detecting physical ailments on people. And one of the techniques easy that we teach people is to put your hand out and just run your fingers up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Build your energy easily.
Excellent.
It doesn't take that much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there. But like you said, we have many fears that have been pushed into our subconscious, that we keep those fears, even though we somehow intellectually we know that there's more there than what we see physically.
Mm-hmm.
There.
Mm-hmm.
And it sometimes for a lot of people takes a little while for them to start really, even though they see, a lot of people have experiences that they can tell you that, yeah, something like that happened to me, but I just never really start to really appreciate what happened until you start talking to them. It's like, that makes sense now. That's what happened back then. It's a woo-woo mentality that keeps people from thinking, well, there's something there that I should be paying attention to.
Yeah, I think what comes up for people, what you're making me think, you're reminding me, is that it's about control too. They're afraid, like there's this force field and I'm not going to be in control. And, what's going to happen if I tap into that? And the beautiful thing is that people, begin to gain the awareness that they are at the center of this control. And I actually have a deep belief that a big part of the reason we're here having this human experience is our big thing is, how are we running our energy? How are we using our power of intention and attention? And we do little exercises to just see the power of looking. What you look at gets energy. And you can feel it, you can sense it. And if I'm in a group, we'll have one person up on the stage and they'll close their eyes. And then I have a whole group focus on the right hand or the left hand. And then they wiggle their fingers on which one they think it is. 90% they get it. And so there's just so much going on, and we don't have to be afraid of it. It's our nature. We were born into this. We were swimming in this. It's like the fish that's unaware of the water. We're in it. You
made me think of the Twilight Zone when you talk about that. People thinking that they're going to get lost in this world, that they can't get out.
The little black. Don't get lost in a black and white series. Don't.
You're going to get stuck in your TV. You can't come out. So how do you get people?
I love it.
How do you get people to break out of those fears or work through those fears?
I think evidence, a real practical and useful tool is to actually tune into your energy body and use the body kind of as a yes, no, forward, back information giver. So we do it with some really fun exercises. The last time I did it, Yeah, every person in the workshop had the positive or negative result. So, super simple. Do you want me to describe the exercise? I mean, anybody can do
you
it.
can do it pretty quickly. Yeah, because I want to hear about the client that you were going to talk about earlier.
Yeah, that's pretty profound.
Yeah, I want to hear about that. So yeah, if you can describe real quickly, and then we can go into the client, the experience that he had or she had with you.
Yeah, super. So a lot of people have heard of, or they go to a chiropractor or someone that does muscle testing, where you test different supplements or, for allergens, that kind of thing, by pressing down on the arm. I know a lot of people have seen that. At any rate, what that's doing is you're getting feedback from your energetic body about what's good or bad for you. So very simple yes, no questions. But you can do the same thing without wearing out your arm. By standing, you just stand, feet hip distance apart, just stand kind of solid and set the intention out loud. And just as an aside, your conscious and subconscious believes everything it hears. And it especially believes what it hears in your own voice. So if you want to do positive affirmations or whatever, say them out loud. So you stand, back to the exercise. You stand and you say, forward is yes, backwards is no. Forward is yes, backwards is no. I like to do it 3 times. Set that intention. And then you can do that standing in line and looking at different things at the grocery store. Is this thing better for me, or is this? Is this supplement something I really need? And you can even hold it on your solar plexus, right below your rib cage on your tummy. And that makes a good connection too. But you can also say, yeah, I just used it last night. And I had a question about someone, and I just flew forward. I mean, now it's almost before it's conscious. The question is consciously formed in my mind. I'm swinging forward and back. And so, I mean, it gets really tuned in. And the more you trust these things, the more they give back. You get in this interplay, which is in a relationship. You're just admitting what's been happening, but you haven't been able to really tap in and use it. So it's getting in there and going, wow, I'm getting this beautiful information. Why not use it? It's right there for me. So,
and it's part of us. It's part of our nature. It's part of who we are.
Yeah, 100%.
Now let's hear about the client that you were talking about.
Oh, my sweet client. So very gifted physician, wonderful servant, just awesome lady. And she had a patient that was extremely ill, and some things happened, and in a young 16-year-old girl, and it required that she have a leg amputated. And so it was a life or death situation, and there was not a clear answer. So she had to make the decision, and she did make that decision, and she was distraught. So we had a session after that happened, and she was going to quit. She was going to quit medicine, and she had been in it for many, many years. And so we talked about, okay, we got into the interplay. Like, who are you in this situation? What was your intent? She's a servant. She's a caregiver. She's compassion, knowledge, tons of extra knowledge, spent time getting lots of extra schooling. And so who was she really trying to be in this situation? And the big fear was she was going to have to go the next day and face the family. And so I get goosebumps telling you about this. So she knew the father especially was going to be just angry, and she was going to have to take all this. And she was really just like, I'd rather quit than even face that. But she was going to talk to them, but then she'd already decided she was going to quit. So we talked about it, and it gave her a new North Star, and her North Star was her. It was her center. Who was she being in this situation? So we began to energy interplay. So this is, and I was going to mention this in business too, when you're preparing for those difficult meetings, difficult conversations, you can set up this kind of figure 8 resonance field connected with that event before you get there. So prepare the way. So let yourself be the generative force that sends light, love, energy, peace, compassion, understanding, whatever you want, abundance in the case of a raise, whatever it is, you be the generative force and let it flow back to you. Get in the flow and the movement, not the forcing, not the worry, not the fear, not the anger, all of that. Just get into the flow and you have the power to do that. So I'll never forget, she called me that night. She had my cell phone number, obviously. I was at a concert and she called me over the moon. I had to step out. She's like, I can't believe it. She's crying. Oh my gosh, they embraced me. They were amazing. They said they knew I did the best I could do. I mean, it's just, I'm getting a little teary thinking about this again. But the power of this thing is that you get to stay in your truth. You get to be you and just more fully, more empowered, more, involved and, in sync with life. And so there goes stress. I mean, there goes resistance. There goes unhappiness. Yeah. So
there's
that's my story. There goes the flow. There you go. Yeah. That's it.
So what inspired you to become a energy coach?
Oh boy. So, what inspired me to be open to the idea that we had this energetic body is that I was very ill when I was young. So at 16, I had a 3-year life expectancy. I had lupus and I had a bad lupus. I had lupus everywhere. And so, in those days, it was a new thing. When I was in the hospital, people would come from all over the hospital and look at me because it was such a novelty, So anyway, in that journey at 16, I, had an experience. I was on the hillside outside of my grandmother's house and I was just filled with this kind of ecstatic, tingling beauty. I mean, I just felt like, what is that? And it's like, it's me, but it's like vibrant. It's like free. It's a lightness. And so I'm like, this is also me. And this is my energy body. So in my context then, I'm like, which still is a good context, is that's the spiritual me. That's the non-physical me. And that is real. And boy, that seems strong. That is really strong. So anyway, I think I needed that experience with absolutely, death was definitely an option then. That's the way things were going. And I needed that experience to shift me to be open to this other idea. So one thing led to the other, and I was trained in Reiki through a series of beautiful events. That's too much to go into here, but got trained in Reiki. And then I owned a wellness center in Kansas City. And I had Reiki clients. I had a really good practice. I had a lot of cool things happening in that center outside of my own practice, but that was pretty vibrant. So people are coming to me, and then I just started getting this uncomfortable. And remember, uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is like the best information you ever get. So I got this uncomfortable feeling like, man, these people, they are addicted to me. They think they have to come to me to get plugged into this energy. They do not realize they have 100% right and access to this energy. And so I started having people come in and just sit in the chair this time. Don't lay on the table. Let's sit in the chair and let's learn a few tools so you start to feel your own energy. So start getting in your own driver's seat, basically. And I found that so rewarding that made me want to do more of that. And then I went on to university to get university training in coaching because I'd become a coach, an energy coach. But I wanted to know, there's so much beautiful methodology around coaching per se that it was fabulous. And I was swimming with my people. They're all the helpers, everybody wants to help. So it was really fun. And that was great. And so that's where I came. And then I was like, my coaching was separate from my energy. And I know it's not. I want to do this as I relaunched, thank you, COVID, over the last year. I relaunched my coaching and energy business into InterPLAY because it is all about the interplay. So, yeah.
really inspiring. So
Oh, yeah.
give me something that you learned early in life that you still use today, a lesson that you learned early.
Oh, well, this is funny because you asked that. This is the first thing that pops in my mind is now, and I love my friends in medicine. I love it. I mean, medicine saved me. Medicine kept me alive long enough to find out the real deal. Thank you, medicine. But one of the things I learned is just because the information comes from somebody in a white coat, it ain't necessarily so. That's information. Take the information, and that goes to any authority figure in your life. So part of the work I do now is called, one of the methodologies I use is called the MAP program. It's based on the work of Dr. Gary Flint, who developed the process healing method in psychology, but I'm trained to use that as a coach. And it's a very specific method. And what it does is it helps get rid of old blocks and old beliefs, engaging conscious and subconscious mind in a very conscious way through a method that has, to a person, had stellar results. I cannot believe it. It's so efficient. It's almost like the other coaching I do that's not energy interplay is really taking a back seat because this works. And that's why I've included a session in my 4-week program. I want everybody to have at least the baseline of some of the blocks removed. So the reason
Speaking of that, you have something that you are willing to offer our listeners, right?
100%, 100%. But I want to just finish this thought about giving away your power and your authority to someone, because what came out of that process for me is that I had given away my power to 2 significant authority figures in my life that weren't in white coats. I gave my power away to shine and to be me and to do my work and to be on stage and to do the things I love to do. But I gave some power away to them. Anyway, so it's all a healing process and about being 100% responsible for your own deal. Okay, so yes.
Let's talk about the free stuff.
Free stuff. Okay, so I really would love for everybody to have the gift of the introductory session to this process healing method, otherwise known as MAP. It's MAP stands for Manifesting All Possibilities, but it's an actual process that allows your conscious and subconscious mind to really start to go to work for you and find any blocks to your current happiness, your current experience. So it's just a gentle, beautiful, profoundly effective method. And so that's something I'd like to give your listeners. So
how can they get that?
They can go to my website, Energy InterPLAY. So with an I, InterPLAY, because we're in it. Remember that. And it's playful. So energyinterplay.net. And go to the contact me and say, send me, or I want my free session. And then I'll connect with you and we'll make that happen. We'll schedule it.
Sounds good. And what's your email?
My email is energyinterplay@gmail.com.
Sounds good. Anything else? Any last minute words that you want to give our listeners? We got about a minute left.
Yeah, just go enjoy. And today, here's a fun one today. Practice energy interplay while you're driving today. See, just feel like you're in the flow of the traffic. You're not fighting the traffic. People aren't intentionally cutting you off. Look for the flow. And I will tell you what, I find openings. I find parking places. I find people let me in. I mean, it is amazing. It'll be rush hour and I'm like getting on the ramp and there are no cars where I want to be. I mean, it is so cool. So just try that and imagine that you are flowing in this beautiful oscillating figure 8. You're flowing with life.
Yeah. And get in the habit of doing it, because the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And like you said, it becomes subconscious now. It just kind of start happening. You just think about it and just happens.
Yeah.
So, Alice, thank you. Thank you for being here. This is really, this is my cup of tea. I like this stuff. Like I said, I'm a Silva mind training instructor. So what you said and what you share with us really align with what I teach. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Appreciate it. And to my listeners, all her information and the free download is going to be just below the recording. Until next time, this is JC Soto with Online Media 360. Until next time, bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.